This is page number 7 in your binder. The objective is to solve word problems involving multiplication of fractions by using visual models and equations. That is a 5th grade standard. In 6th grade, we want to focus on the division of fraction. So this is a really important lesson to focus on material that you should already know how to do. So the general rules that you want to keep in mind when multiplying fractions, and you can write this on the side. I know it's a little dark in your book, but you can still write on the side. So the first rule when multiplying fractions, it says change whole numbers into fractions by putting the number over 1. So if you look at this example right here, we have 1/3 times 21. 21 is a whole number. So I'm going to put this over 1. So that was one of the general rules. And then it says, and then I will multiply that across. So I have 1 times 21, which is 21. And then 3 times 1, which is 3. 21 divided by 3 equals 7. All right, so that's my general rule, my first one. The next one, you want to change or mix numbers into improper fractions. So an example of that will be this one right here. So we have a mixed number here. We want to change it into an improper fraction because we can only multiply the numerators with the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. So we have to change any whole numbers into the improper fraction. All right, so we have, in order to do that, we have to multiply 3 times 2, which is 6, and then we need to add 2, which is 8. So this is going to become 8 over 3. Now these are equivalent because if I were to divide 8 divided by 3, standard long division, drop the top number in. So I have 8 divided by 3. 3 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. I subtract, I have 2 left over. The remainder becomes the numerator and the divisor becomes the denominator. So I did not change my original equation because 8/3 is the same as or equivalent to 2 2/3. So I'm just going to bring my multiplication sign down and bring down my 1/2. Now I can multiply as normal. So now I have 1 times 8, which equals 8, and then 2 times 3, which equals 6. So 8 divided by 6. 6 goes into 8 one time. 6 times 1 is 6. I subtract and get 2. I'm going to keep a fraction here. So I'm going to have 1 and 2, the remainder, and the divisor, the denominator of my fraction. And then I can simplify this by dividing both the numerator and denominator by 2, which is going to give me 1 and 1/3. Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. All right, so that is going to be 1 and 1/3. So that's the second general rule. The next general rule, you want to multiply the fraction's numerator by the numerator to find the product of the numerators, and then multiply the fraction's denominator to find the denominator. So that's an example right here. So when we say multiply the numerator times the numerator, we have 5 times 2, which equals 10. And then we have 6 times 3, which equals 18. And then since this is a proper fraction because the numerator is lower than the denominator, but I can simplify. So 10/18. These are 2 even numbers, so I know they both are divisible by 2. So I'm going to divide my numerator and denominator by 2. 10 divided by 2 is equivalent to 5. And 18 divided by 2 is equivalent to 9. So I can say that 5/6 of 2/3 is 5/9. All right. And the simplest form, I just showed an example of that. So if you have 2 numbers that have a greatest common factor, use that greatest common factor to simplify your fraction. Here we have the steps to model multiplying fractions and whole numbers. So step number 1 says first show the whole. So we want to figure out what is 2/5 of 3. 2/5 times 3 is 2/5 of 3. So we will start with the whole number. So our whole number here is 3. So I'm starting here with 1, 2, 3 whole rectangles. And then I want to show 2/5 of that 3. So I'm going to divide each whole. So here are my wholes right here. I'm going to divide each whole into the denominator of the other fraction equal parts. So the denominator of the other fraction is, or the other factor, I should say, the other factor is a 5. So I'm going to break these thirds up into fifths. So this is this example right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is my whole, which is modeled here. And I'm going to break this up into fifths. So we have 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and 5/5. So you have to break each whole up into fifths. So if I were to do it up here, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5. That equals a whole. 5 divided by 5 is a whole 1. So each of these parts represents 1/5, which is what you see down here. So that's one whole. Then we have another whole that's broken up into fifths. And obviously the last whole that's broken up into fifths. And then we have to shade the numerator, which is in this case is 2, in each whole. So we went from this model to this model. Now we are here. So our numerator is 2. So we have 1, 2. So we're going to shade 2/5 of the 3 wholes. So we have 1/5 plus 1/5 is 2/5. 1/5 plus another 1/5. When you add in fractions, the denominator stays the same. And we have 1 plus 1. So 1/5 plus 1/5 is 2/5. So that this is 2/5 of 1. And then we have another 2/5. So this is going to be 1 plus 1, a 2/5 of 2. And then we're going to do another 2/5. 1/5 plus 1/5 is 2/5. So this will be 2/5 of 3. So all of these together represents 3. So if we put all of those together, we have 1/5 times 6. So we can change our whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. Multiply 1 times 6, which is 6 for the numerator. 5 times 1, which is 5 for the denominator. And then since we have an improper fraction, we can divide to change it to a mixed number. Standard long division, drop the top number in. So it should say 6 divided by 5. 5 goes into 6 one time. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract, we get 1. Now, if I want to keep a fraction, the remainder is going to be the numerator of my fraction. And the divisor, what I wanted to make a whole group of, is going to be the denominator of my fraction. Because remember, a fraction is a part out of a whole. 1 is the part that we have left over. And 5 is the whole that we wanted a group of. But we have 1/5 of a group. All right, so that is that. Another thing you could have did was take all of your 1/5 parts, 1/5, plus another 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 1/5. Let's do this. If we add that up together, we have 5 for the denominator, because remember when you add in fractions, the denominator stays the same. And then for the numerator, we have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, which equals 6/5, which is the same answer we got over here. So the reason you could repeat add or multiply, because repeated addition is multiplication. So keep that in mind for word problems.